Hi cuties! Today we are filming on my phone because Q is an idiot and didn't charge either of her camera batteries. Hi, I'm dumb. We're gonna see how this works with my phone. I'm sorry if any quality is different or worse or what, but here we go. Today it is time to talk about books because I don't shut up about books. And these are the books I read in March. That's the new theme song. This time, let's talk about March. If you recall my TBR video, I tried to keep with my theme of March of the Indies as I do every year and read as many indie books as possible. I did read 6 indie books this month, along with some others not so indie books. And I almost did not complete all of the TBR. I technically went a little bit over into April 1st, but I was more than halfway done with the book, and it only took me like another hour to finish it. I just had an overnight shift, so I couldn't finish it on the 31st. I tried though. I was really gunning it for these books, but I finished it. So that is 3 for 3 on TBRs. I have completed them. Don't have any leftover books so far this year, so that is never happened to me before. In total, I read 15 books this month, which it's not the most I've read so far this year. I think January I still read more. I think January, I don't remember how many I read in January. 18? I don't know, but I read more than I read in February, and with March, I also took a week off in the beginning to do all of the editing for Ashport, and I didn't really read then, so it technically took me like 2 weeks to finish one book that wasn't on the TBR. I was just very excited to get my hands on it, and I will be reviewing that in a moment. But let's talk about some stats. I read a total of 5,720 pages, with 82.5 of those pages being hours of audiobook. That made sense in my brain, but not when it came out of my mouth. I read 8 fantasy books, 3 sci-fi, 2 contemporary, 1 historical fiction, and 1 non-fiction. Quotation marks. So we read a pretty chunky, it was a chunky month, I do say. Maybe not in page count, because a few of the indie books are pretty short, not short, but like page count wise, but they're also tall books, so their word counts are actually bigger than their page counts are. But let's just shut up, Q, just shut up for a second. I need to shut up and talk about the actual books themselves. So, the very first book that I read was an audiobook, a continuation of a series that I started this year, and that was Lyriel by Garth Nix, which is the sequel to Sabriel. You may be shocked that I've continued the series considering I wasn't a huge fan of Sabriel, but I was a little bit more of a fan of Lyriel, not entirely. I really didn't care for the second half of this book. I liked the beginning. I liked Lyriel's beginning. I got a little lost through the end of it. However, I have promised Spence that I will read this series. So Abhorsen is in my queue. So we're going to read that one next. This was bigger though. Abhorsen is shorter, but I definitely like the character of Lyriel more. I kind of canonize her as Ace, but I have been told that Golden Hand ruins all of it. I got scared we were going to have a weird incest plot in this. We did not, thankfully, but I got a little scared that we were gonna venture into some Cassandra Clare territory, and some George R.R. Martin territory. I don't want to be in any of those territories, but I thought it was really fun. It's a cool, and I really love the cover. The cover is great because, like, you see the shiny, there's all the charter marks. Charter marks are covering it, and that's like such a subtle, cute thing, but that's not quality of the book itself. That's just good cover design. It was a major time jump from Sabriel. We actually now go way ahead where Sabriel and Touchstone are married, and they have these kids, and the prince is supposed to be the next Abhorsen, but he don't wanna. And then we have Lyriel, who is a Clare, but not because she doesn't have the sight. And we have some fun plot twists. I was super creeped out by the plot twist of Lyriel's origin. I did not like that. That was kind of gross. And it's just coming to show that Garth Nix's strong point is not romance. I'll tell you that. Still fun, still a series I probably would have enjoyed more as a teenager. Next up, Guilty Pleasures time. We've got The Wicked King by Holly Black. I'm liking this series. I shouldn't be liking this series, but I am liking this series. I was really mad at the ending twist. I did like our character growth for all our characters. I like that everyone is super flawed and no one's perfect, and we have all of these hidden agendas happening more so than you thought. So it's convoluted, but it is a fast read, and I'm trying to guess what the hell is going on in Carden's brain. It is not going well in this brain, though, I'll tell you that. So I will be reading Queen of Nothing next month. It's already in my queue. Yeah, so thoughts on the conclusion will come later, but yeah, this is the second book in the Cruel Prince trilogy, and it's fairy courts, very true to the fairy courts. Holly Black is kind of a master of fae fantasy writing, and it's fun and interesting. It's a wild ride. It does feel like a CW show, I will say that, with the amount of drama in teen romance lives, also with some magic thrown in and stuff. It does feel like a CW drama, which usually means bad, but in this case, good for me. It seems good. Although if CW did adapt this, I probably wouldn't watch it because I'm not a huge fan of those shows. I am liking the series quite a bit. Very fun times. Next up was a book I super enjoyed and was super happy I got to read it. It was one of my 2021 TBR books, and that is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. I almost messed up and said a different name, but this is a fat positivity book. This is about a fashion blogger, a plus size fashion blogger who kind of trashes on a show that's very similar to like The Bachelor, but it's called Main Squeeze, and she leaves this kind of scathing review and of the show, or like hot take on the show about how there's such a lack of diversity in it. And later on, the showrunners of the show ask her to be the main squeeze for the next season, shake things up, and she's like, okay, but you have to have a diverse group of people, and they kind of do. We have a lot of different push and pull, who she's going to choose kind of thing, where there's kind of one clear guy that she's going to end up, but there's still even some plot twists there that's like, oh, will they end up together? They might not. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. I really loved how seen I felt as a plus size girl in this, and a lot of the emotions that she goes through, and a lot of the inner thoughts of not feeling worthy of love, especially if you've had like an unrequited love. She doesn't have the same storyline that I do, but, you know, I still related to her emotions in finally, you know, thinking you're with the person that you should be, and then all of that going out the window. All of her inner thoughts and wanting to be proud of herself and promote, you know, body positivity, when at the same time you're still feeling all of those insecure feelings and things getting reinforced by the people around you, and feeling like you're just taking up so much space just existing. And it hit me hard in all those. There were a few points in this where I was like, no. And that was more of the sexual moments. There's really only two not full sex scenes, but like one that's more steamy and one that's kind of like fade to black, which is fine, but it's like that was the only part of this, of her character, that I didn't relate to because I'm ace. Relate to because I'm ace. Overall, I really enjoyed this. I think she did a really good job of showcasing what it's like to be a fat girl in a world that's obsessed with looking good and looking sexy and looking skinny, especially for women. And I felt very seen with this book. Will I get the same happy ending? Unlikely, but at least I can read about someone else having one. So, living vicariously through books. Next up is the first indie book that I read this month, and it wasn't on the TBR, but I had to read it because it arrived, and that is The Dead Meat Sextet by Sean Hutchings, who is also known as What Now on YouTube. You can check out his stuff, and I thoroughly enjoy him as a person, and I was so scared, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. When I read my friends' books, people I know, I'm scared to read their books because, like, what if I don't like it? I don't want to crush them, and, you know, but I also want to leave honest reviews about things and about the books. I don't want to sacrifice my integrity as a reviewer and, you know, give you guys a false review just to not hurt my friend's feelings. However, I don't have to worry about that in this case because I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars because there were some points where I was a little bit lost, not gonna lie, but there are a few different plot lines all revolving around this theme of, you know, death, the afterlife, and they don't really intertwine in the way you think when we say, oh, the plot's all intertwined. They're all related based on that theme. It kind of felt like, what's that one movie? I didn't actually see that one movie, but I think he markets this as like Cloud9 and Terry Pratchett, very Douglas Adams, and kind of Taika Waititi almost with some of the prose in this. There were some scenes where I was like, thank you for those nightmares, sir. You'll probably be nominated next year for that award that you gave away this year. Especially in the very first scene with the restaurant stuff. I was like, oh, no thank you. But there were some characters in this that I absolutely loved. 3 main plot lines in this book I super loved. And that was Dame Caroline, Envy, and Daniel together. And not romantically, I just love their story together. And then Mammals. Mammals and the whole storyline of remaking all of the animals on the earth and stuff. That was so fun and so interesting and frankly a little inspiring because I was like, oh, that'd be really interesting. And it kind of put some thoughts in my brain for my own works. And I really want a fuzzlet. I mean, who doesn't want a fuzzlet? But I'd also like a bark rat. I'd like an actual bark rat, not the fuzzlet bark rat. But anyway, it's very surreal. It's one you're gonna need some brain power for. I'm not gonna lie. There was points where I was like, I can't read this right now because I don't have the brain function to comprehend some of this stuff. But overall, it was so fun and different. It's not the type of book you normally see, and I think it deserves much more hype. And I'm normally like, you know, some people who are very anti-self-publishing and stuff, there is a stigma around us. This one, I feel like this should have been traditionally published. This should have gotten a good book deal because it's very poignant in all of the aspects that it's presenting you with its themes in the sense of like the afterlife and death and analyzing society and stuff. It's got a lot more to it than you think it will, especially then it's more than just this cover, because this cover, I will say, not a huge fan of the cover, Sean. I'm sorry. I think we could do better. I have ideas in my brain, but I'm not an artist. But based on the cover alone, it's not, I don't think it necessarily portrays what's inside this book. So I get what it's doing now that I've read the book, but on first glance, you automatically are thinking something different by reading this. I don't know. What do you guys think? When you see this cover, what do you think this is going to be about without having listened to me say anything about it? I'm going to babble about this book for a while, so I'm going to stop now. I really enjoyed it. I do think people should be picking this one up. It's a fun, wild ride and uses your noggin there. Next up was a book of poetry, some historical fiction, not fiction. It's kind of it's not, I don't know what to call it. It's poetry, but historical poetry, and it's kind of nonfiction because it's retelling the story of Joan of Arc, and that is The Language of Fire by Stephanie Hemphill. I actually had to mark a few places because there were some good lines in here. Some of them were just more like kind of feministy lines that I like. So one of the quotes that I really liked was, "Why are so many men insistent on stripping me of my purity? Are they so threatened by a girl with an ounce of freedom and control? I holler back to the man, why do you take the name of the Lord in vain when you are so close to your own death? Do you not wish to see heaven?" The soldier holds his belly as laughter rumbles through him. An hour later, however, the man stops laughing, stops breathing. He falls into the moat and drowns, as I predicted he would. And I'm just like, yeah, girl! So this is a retelling for Joan of Arc. It's all done in poetry, so it's a chonker of a book, but it's very fast. I actually finished this book while waiting for my first COVID shot. Yeah. I just really, really liked this. I'm not normally into poetry so much, but this read so well as a narrative as well as poetry that it hooked me. It hooked me good. So I definitely liked this. And I thought this was a better retelling of Joan of Arc. Now I've read 2 Joan of Arc poetry books. One I did not like, and this one I really liked. So highly recommend this one over Voices by David Eliot. I didn't like, I'm sorry, it's the difference, I think, is that it was written by a man, and this is written by a woman who understands feeling the way that Joan of Arc felt. And I liked this a lot. If you're into poetry and more historical stuff and want more Joan of Arc, there you go. Another indie book I was super excited to get to was Call the Bluff by O.E. Tierman. This is the sequel to The Hands Were Given. It is the second book in the Aces High, Joker's Wild series. I own the third book. There are 2 more and some other little novellas. I don't know if they're still continuing with it, but this is like a dystopian sci-fi military focus, which is not my usual thing, I'll tell you that, but it is very gay. The commander of the base that we're on is a trans man who has his boyfriend who is a gay man, and they are adorable and the cutest couple you will ever see together. Who also stress each other out so much because they're living in a very dangerous time. We have lots of different representation, both in just racial diversity, in orientation, in disability. I mean, I kind of don't want to just tell you guys like, oh, just because it's diverse and stuff, it's good. No, it's good because the plot is crazy and high stakes all the time, and you just root for these characters and you want them to survive, and you get very scared. There were several moments where I was like, did they just die? And heart palpitations in this. I don't know if I like this one as much as The Hands Were Given, but I did still like it. I do think I like the first book more than the second one. It's not by like a minuscule amount. And that's only because I felt this book ended too fast. And I don't feel like it fully ended on the arc that I was expecting it to end on. I just need to go into the third book like right now. That was kind of my only real criticism of it, is just that the ending seemed like misplaced. Like I was like, where's the ending? So the ending is apparently book 3. So I'll be going to that sometime soon. Next up is another 2021 read that I wanted to get to, and that is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And I, again, thought this was different than what I thought it was. I forgot this was set in the Jazz Age. So it's Jazz Age, but Mayan culture, Latin America, and we have a girl named Cassiopeia who is treated very poorly by her family, and she unlocks a chest which has these bones in it, but because she accidentally gets a splinter on the bone, it joins with her, and she brings back this god who had been trapped and dethroned back to life, and now they are kind of bound to each other to retake his kingdom, which is very convoluted. It felt like an Indiana Jones movie almost, or like one of those older adventure movies. That's kind of what this felt like to me, and it was really fun. The only kind of criticism I had, because I did listen to this in an audiobook, which I'm not gonna recommend so much because I don't know if it was the prose or the narrator, but it felt sometimes a little stilted in the prose. So it was a lot of like kind of short, choppy sentences. But again, that could have been how the narrator was reading the book. So I recommend physically reading this one. I liked how complicated it was. I did like how the ending went. That was very interesting, and it goes differently than you think it will. And I really liked the growth in her cousin and his whole, like, because he's a asshole. Like, her cousin is the worst. I liked that we saw both paths, both on like because both of them think that they're on the right side, but you're not even sure if you're on the right side when you're reading this. And that's what I really liked about this book. So also, it's gorgeous. Not a disappointing 2021 read. Next book I read was the conclusion to an entire series that's been going on a very long time. is near and dear to my heart, and that is The Desolations of Devil's Acre by Ransom Riggs. This is the 6th and final book of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and I think it's the final book. It better be. Wow, was this a wild ride. It took a while, though. This is a chonkin' book, and I listened to it on audiobook, and they scared me a lot with certain deaths. I was sad that we didn't revisit certain things that happened in the previous books. I just really wanted more Millard. I wanted so much more Millard than I got. I will tell you that. Millard is one of my favorite characters. We got a lot of Bronwyn though, and I was very happy with the amount of Bronwyn in this. So, yay. And Enoch as well. It scared me with Enoch for a good while there. I did like how this ended. I thought it did wrap up pretty nicely. It wrapped everything up in a nice tight bow. I think the reason why it took so long is because there were so many like plot points and plot holes in the other books that he had to really tie all those loose ends up, and I think he did a really good job of that. It's sad letting go of a series when you're done with it, and you're just like, please, Ransom Riggs, don't do anything to make me unhaul these books, because I may have to unhaul some other authors now, and I don't want to unhaul you. So please, Ransom Riggs, stay on the good side of author life. Another 2021 read, as well as being on the official TBR. I was very excited to read this one, and I'm happy to report I was not so disappointed with it. But that is Sisters of Shadow and Light by Sarah B. Larson. This is a high fantasy book, different than what I thought it was going to be. I will say, there are comparisons to this and Strange the Dreamer, and like, I get it, but this is very different than Strange the Dreamer. I get the small points to it where we have these women living in a citadel that is blocked off from the rest of humanity, but with a giant live hedge. Zura is who I feel really is the main character, even though we do switch POVs with her and Inara. But for the most part, it's mostly Zura's book because Inara doesn't actually communicate well because of her condition. Inara is a paladin, Zura is not. They are both sisters, but Inara inherited the paladin powers from her father, and she has this thing called the Roar, which she can't communicate well. And if she uses her power to like heal plants and grow plants, then it kind of goes away and she becomes normal and can communicate, but it'll always come back. So they're always limited on their time together. And then their mother is just a mess and hates Inara because she thinks that her husband left her on the night that Inara was born. Obviously, you kind of already feel like something else is going on here. Her mother is obsessed with getting Zura married off and out of the hedge and stuff. And lo, the hedge opens up and a boy comes walking on in, and it doesn't go how you think it's going to go. I'll tell you that right now. There are some pretty good plot twists to this, and Zura ends up accidentally going to the world of the paladins, I can talk, where she finds her father. That it's really foreshadowed. It's not that spoilery. You knew it was going to happen. She gets wrapped up in that world, and then Inara used so much power that now she is kind of back to being a regular person, and develops more of her personality and strengths through learning about what's really going on with the paladins and the history. The world building is very rich on this, I will tell you that. And I'm very excited to read the sequel. There is a sequel's out. It's Warriors of Flame something. Warriors of something in flame. Wing and Flame? Warriors of Wing and Flame? Maybe? I'm putting it on the screen and I'm just confused. I know it's Warriors and I know the flame is in it. And it's a red cover with the same kind of art, but anyway, it's really good and I really enjoyed it. There were some parts where I was like, okay, girl, but given her situation growing up, both girls are very naive, and they were very sheltered because they were literally living in this hedge citadel place with no one, and their mother wasn't doing anything for them. And they only had Sammy, who was this kind of, not servant, but caretaker, who was a midwife as well, that helped bring them into the world. And she's the only one that the hedge lets her leave to go get them food and stuff. But they've never been able to leave. So, very sheltered life. And so you have to kind of remember that as she's going through things, and it's like, okay, I get why she mistook those feelings, but you know, whatever. Anyway, moving on, because I am talking way too much about these books. I know, I'm sorry. We're gonna go to another book that was absolutely fantastic, and it was continuation of a series I started this year, and that is Arch Enemies, which is the sequel to Renegades by Marissa Meyer, and I'm a sucker for Marissa Meyer. I'm just gonna admit that right now. I love her writing. I love what she's doing with these books, and especially this series. Like, I am dying! I'm dying with the ending of this. I have to finish this. I have to read the final book, Supernova, which I have on my shelf. I'm gonna read it. It's probably gonna happen this month because I am addicted. I am absolutely addicted to this. This is how I love superheroes and villains and this very complicated world building, complicated characters with complicated feelings, and I'm just gonna die. I'm gonna freak out with the next book because everything's gonna go down and I'm not gonna be able to handle it. I'm going to lose my mind because I'm pretty sure that's the finale. I think this is only a trilogy, and I'm going to be #stressed while reading it. I guarantee you that. But guys, this book is so good. This whole series is so good. I'm gonna die. I can't control my emotions with this book right now, okay? As you can see. And I just love everything. I love Nova, and I love Adrian, and I love all the characters so much. And I love Max. I can't eloquently say anything about it. I just want to scream my love and frustration. Next book I read, this was a very short audiobook, but I needed to do it in order to complete my Peculiar Children series stuff, but that is Tales of the Peculiar by Ransom Riggs. This is a collection of short stories, but it does have annotations by Millard, which I thoroughly enjoyed that. There was a bunch of different stories in this. Some I liked, some I didn't. So as with any collection of short stories, it's kind of hit or miss. My favorite ones was first Imbrin, the woman who befriended ghosts. I really liked The Girl Who Could Tame Nightmares a lot. And I think those were my top 3 in here. Top 3. And I just really liked it. I didn't like the audiobook narrator though. I don't know what it is about this guy. He's an older gentleman, an older British voiced gentleman, and I don't listen well to that voice, I guess. So it took a little bit of concentrating to figure out what was going on, but I really liked this. It's a good companion to it, and now I have read the entirety of everything that is out for Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and it's over. The last 4 books were all indie books, and I was scrambling to read them. I'm going to review these next 2 together because they're both in the same series, but I finished the Arcane Adventures series, which was Clockwork Emperor and the Rail Spectre. I liked Clockwork Emperor more than Rail Spectre. I actually wasn't a huge fan of Rail Spectre, but that was for a more personal reason, not so much the writing. So with these, we have Vivian and Nate. And I read the first book last year. I think I read it last year. And it's steampunky, which is great. I do enjoy the steampunkness. But here they are engaged, and they end up having to go to China because of the Explorer Society wanting them to go find this dragon skeleton and an arrow that killed it, because this arrow in the wrong hands could do much damage. And so they go on this grand adventure, and I gotta say, I was not too happy with some of the ways that their relationship gets handled, because there were a lot of moments where I felt there was conflict between these 2 characters that was brushed over. And I kind of wanted more of this conflict, especially because there is this other woman who is their translator, who is very clearly into Nate and is saying very rude things to Vivian in front of Nate, and he doesn't really do anything about this. And I'm like, dude, you're engaged to this girl. You're gonna let somebody else talk to her like that? Really? I didn't really care for that too much, that he didn't really have any intuition about how this presence of this woman and how it was affecting the woman he so-called loves. And that was the thing for both of these books. I kind of lost the chemistry between them. And because a lot of it was just Vivian stating how much she loved this man, and I wasn't totally seeing the bond anymore. And I don't know if I just wasn't reading well enough, but I didn't fully see that, especially in the third book when they are now married. And the thing I didn't like about the third book is because there was such a huge focus on Vivian wanting to have children, which is not a thing I care about. I'm very ace and I don't want kids, and I don't connect with characters that do usually. So the fact that this was so focused on that took me out a bit, which is why I didn't like it as much. But again, there were these conflicts that happened between them that I just wanted to build more. I wanted to see more of this, and I wanted a better resolution than them just kind of glazing over and being like, well, we're obviously in love, so we're fine. That's where I kind of lost it with these ones. Overall, it's still a really fun adventure. We go through a lot of different kind of mystical creatures. There is a Wendigo in this one. We've got lots of different Chinese cultural fun creatures in this one. It touches on Native American culture in this one. There's some good sensitivity notes on this as well, which I thoroughly appreciated. So you can tell that there was a lot of care that went into these books that are representing different cultures and things. So well done to Vanessa for that. And yeah, it's still very fun. I think it would be a really fun to see this visually, because steampunk is always a very visual kind of genre, and it's just great. It's steampunk is just eye candy, and there's airships and all kinds of fun. I don't know. There's airships, and that's all I have to say about it now. Yeah, it's a fun series, but if you're here for more of the romance aspect of it, I would say the first book is really where that's at. Not so much in these next two. At least for me. Last two books. I'm so sorry how long this video is. Ah! No one's gonna watch it. It's fine. So here's an issue where I did not enjoy a book, and I have many opinions about this. And I don't know how to properly tell you guys that, holy crap, because this is considered a nonfiction book, but it's a spiritual focused book, which is not what I read at all. But I did get this during a Mile High Con, and we did a book swap kind of thing. And so I promised to read it, and I did. And that is Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo by Ella Levain. I didn't like this. It was kind of all over the place. And some of the, whatchamacallit, I don't want to say, I'm not allegations, but some of the information presented felt kind of conceited in the fact that a lot of the connections that is made to prove, alien life and influence and stuff, also tying it in with the Bible is something that I'm like, whoa, I'm not into that at all, because I don't care for a lot of organized religion in the Bible itself, because it's written by man, and therefore I don't really want to give it a lot of weight, because the Bible has hurt so much that I don't have any trust or faith in it. Sorry if you guys do. That's my way of this. I just don't. And I don't like people using the Bible as a means of authenticity for anything, because it's a book, and it was written by guys. I don't trust male authors usually. With the Bible, people using that and thinking the Bible is law is what I'm not into. I'm okay if you're spiritual, if you have a relationship with God, if you are a religious person, that is fine for you. I don't like it when people push their beliefs on other people, and I don't like using religion to reason things, because it doesn't seem logical to me. Anyway, with this book, it ties in a lot of Bible quotes with aliens and E.T.'s Aliens, Gods, and Angels. That's what the book says. And it's kind of a encyclopedia. Like, once you get to the middle of the book, we have an actual list of different creatures. So there's giants, Eva Borgs, or Evaborgs, fallen angels, flying serpents, dwarfins, lots of different stuff here. But some of the claims in this book felt very outrageous to me. And some of them felt outdated. One of the facts, she did say that, like, went with the humans use 10% of the brain. That's been debunked. Blaming things like cancer and obesity and allergies on being cursed from these more negative entities, and I think is kind of BS. And I didn't appreciate, like, there was a strong focus on belief that the Nazis were involved with a negative entity race of aliens, and I'm like, if that was the case, they lost. So I don't know. There was heavy focus on that. She uses the term gypsies incorrectly because it's a derogatory term, and granted, this book was published in 2012, so it wasn't as commonly known around, I would say, white people to know that gypsy is an offensive term. It's Romani, and also saying that they have involvement with entities, not necessarily evil, but that they have an intuition given to them by them. Anyway, there was that I was kind of put off by. I was really out there when she makes the claim that flies are spies and are implanted with cameras, or not cameras, recording devices for evil entities. And I just had to be like, what? And incorrectly connecting idioms in English, because here's the thing, English is a baby language. And so her connecting English idioms like to bug someone, she's like, to bug someone comes from, spying on them. And I'm like, nope. To bug someone comes from annoying them, because a fly is always zipping around you, or any bug is, and that's annoying. That's where that phrase comes from. Didn't appreciate that. It felt very very conceited to assume all of these things revolving around English language and around the earth itself, because of all the planets and things going on in the universe, and if these creatures are so much more intelligent than us, why are they bothering with us here? Why are we the central of this so-called galactic war that's happening? And that's where I'm just like, it's too far-fetched for me to believe that we are so important in the grand scheme of things. I don't think humans really are. I just disagreed with a lot of what this book said. And I'm sorry. I couldn't. I really, really couldn't. There's too much to unpack in this. I don't have enough time. I've already spent so much time talking about books and things. I have one more to review, and I will not shut up about this book if I start going on literally every little thing that bothered me, because there was a lot that bothered me in that book. But I'm being honest. That's my opinion on it. Last book, also I'm a little nervous about, because I do know the author for this as well. This is The Healer's Love by Kiera L. Rose, also known as The Naked Firefly on YouTube. And I didn't hate it. I will tell you that. I did not hate it. I enjoyed the first half a lot. I thought there was a really rich, it's a fake country, I believe. I don't think the country is real, called Igbala. And it's got a very rich culture to it, which I appreciated in that world building. We have a main character who is mute, but it's not mute in how you think, because she doesn't have a condition that prevents her from speaking. She used to speak, but it's based on a trauma response that she is mute. And so she does use sign language, or she'll write to communicate, which I thought was very nice to have that kind of different disability representation as a main character. The romance that happens in this, I did feel was a little unbalanced, but take it or leave it. It's a little insta-lovey, not quite insta-love, but pretty close to it, which again is not usually my thing, but it does work for the relationship between the two of them. The main character is actually engaged to be married to an absolute trash can of a human being, and it's kind of an arranged marriage kind of thing. And she ends up meeting this other guy who they click instantly, and he's very determined to be a part of her life and learn about her. And he was very much like this kind of almost perfect man, which is where I lost a little bit. He does have some flaws though, and I will give him that. It did feel a lot like he was constantly in pursuit of her, where she wasn't really doing anything for him. So that's where I feel the unbalance of the situation. Sometimes the character was very naive, and she just kind of took everything at face value, even if it was an absolutely shady person telling her a blatant lie. She just believed it and didn't do anything about it. She just believed it and walks out. So there's a point where there's a fake pregnancy with a character, and she just kind of believes it and thinks, oh, okay, he obviously is not actually interested in me, bye, and leaves and doesn't give him any chance to explain anything about this person. There's even like the mom, who is very, like, if you've seen Hanari Dango, very domyoji mom, who, you know, shuts down businesses that this very poor girl is a part of and has family in. And the mom says something about how the guy did this to her, and she just believes it. And I'm like, girl, come on. And there's this kind of flip-flopping of if she's going to marry this horrible guy or not. And when there's moments where she's like, I'm not going to do it. And then she just 2 seconds later is like, well, I have to marry him. And it was just a little bit of flip-floppy there. The second half of the book felt a little soap opera-y, because there was like one thing after the next that I felt like could have been foreshadowed a little bit more to better suit the narrative of the book. Again, I did not hate it. I think this couple is very cute and it's a good romance, but there were parts of it where I was like, things were inappropriate at the time. Certain ways that she would think about him at very dire moments of like people dying. There is a character death in here that I thought was like, what? That was nothing. Nobody cared about that. Okay. There was a lot to unpack in this. And so I felt like it went by too fast to really let the reader digest what was happening. Some people, this is going to be something that they're going to absolutely love. I didn't hate it. Like I said, I know it sounds like, because I just tend to talk more about things that I don't like than what I do like. But I thought it was very fun. It actually is a very quick read. It looks kind of chunky. The formatting is a little off, because there is actually a lot of like blank space here with the formatting. So that might be something in a second edition to kind of look at. But it is actually a very quick read. That's why I got through this in just 2 days. I would have done it in 1 day had I not had to go to work. But I was invested in this story. I was into the characters, into the growth. I really appreciated, here's one thing I really super appreciated. So Ianda, the main character here, when she kind of overcomes her disability, not overcomes it, but like she decides to speak. It's not a decision though, because it just happens naturally. It happens in like one of those small moments where you realize, because she feels so safe and with Emiliano, the love interest, she finally speaks, and it's a very casual moment where they're like, wait, I just spoke for the first time since she was a child. And I thought that was super beautifully done. I really appreciated that, just like, oh, I feel safe enough to talk now, because that's part of her trauma and why she doesn't talk. I don't want to spoil everything for you guys, but I thought that was just a really good taste of it, and a really good way to showcase how it didn't have to be this giant big moment that you expect it to be for a lot of stories like this. It happened in the quiet, and I really, really liked that. I will leave it on that note, but yeah, this was, oh my God, it's so many books. I can't even hold them all. That was heavy. That's some good weightlifting. So, okay, I have talked about books for so long. I am so sorry, everybody, but I don't lie. I say in the beginning that I can't shut up about books. So, honesty only here. Let me know if you're going to check out any of these books. A lot of them deserve more love than they are getting, so go check those out. What are you guys reading in March? Let me know in the comments below, or on Facebook, Tumblr, or Twitter. And I'm also on Twitch as QWERTYQ, and you can visit my Ko-fi page if you want to support me as a content creator, and that would be really cool if you did. More fun stuff coming up this month, and I hope you guys had a great March and a great reading, and going forward into April, let's see what we can do. I will see you next time, cuties. Bye!
audiobooks just dropped in my Libby app. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, Poppy War just finally dropped. Oh god, I'm losing books. I'm losing books there. So let me know in the comments below on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitty. I did it again. I said Twitty.